In this video, I want to walk you through how to do the skill package. This is what I think is probably the most important part of the course. It's worth 50% of your grade, and it's a project that you'll start this week at the beginning of the course, and you'll work through bit by bit through the end of the course. So I'm going to go into my modules here and show you the section. It has its own section right here, the skill package. You're watching this video right now, so you obviously got to that. So the idea of the skill package is, first of all, you're going to look at a list of skills, okay? A list of skills. And the instructions are written in this link, but I'm going to go over it with you here. So when you look through the list of skills, what we have here is a list of interpersonal communication skills we've broken down. And there's about 40 of them, right? And there's skills like the first one is, for example, learning how to initiate ideas and actions forcefully, how to assert yourself when you're right. That's one particular skill. The skill number 2 is meet and get to know people, overcome shyness, right? Improve new relationships. Now, you'll see that all these skills are different, and we've come up with a pretty exhaustive list here. The idea is for you to read over the list and pick one that you think, wow, I would really like to get better at that, right? Like I really need, for example, I need to learn how to be more independent. So, hey, number 17, that's going to be the one for me. Or whatever, you're going to find that you're going to observe one of these that seems to ring more of a bell for you. And then that's your first step, right? Now remember, it should be something you want to get better at. You're not looking for something you're already good at. That'd be a complete waste of time. We're trying to find something that you want to get better at, something you can improve. Now, sometimes you'll find that, wait, some of these are kind of similar, and I don't really quite know which one to pick between the two. So you can do what we call is have a composite skill where you're going to merge two of them together just because they seem to fit better together. That's okay to do that. Just you don't want to make the mistake of trying to do, and this, I've had several students do this over the last couple of years. They'll think for some reason that they have to do a bunch of these different skills. But you don't. You only have to pick one. Be sure you do that. Just pick one. Or combine a couple if it seems like they really should go together. Once in a blue moon, somebody will look through the whole list and they'll say, wait, I can't quite find it. And then they'll ask me, hey, can I add a skill to the list? And we have done that. In fact, last year at the very bottom here, we had a student, I love this. She added this one called Don't Fix, Just Listen, right? Work on the impulse to jump in and offer advice or solutions instead of just listening. I thought that, hey, that's a great skill. And we added that to the list. We also recently added number 41. Develop your personal relationships by reducing time on your cell phone or social media, doing what we call a digital detox, right? This has turned out to be really popular. You may also find that when you look through this list, that you may want to incorporate family members. Not necessarily, but I've had a few students say, hey, I just can't decide, and I'm going to pick someone I know in my family that knows me really well, have them look the list over with me and help me decide. We had one mother, actually, who she couldn't quite figure out, and the kids got to the one about learning to be a better listener. They said, yeah, Mom, you really need to do number 9, listen carefully to others. And she got kind of a little upset, like, what do you mean? I'm a good listener. What are you talking about? But then she thought about it for a while, and she thought, hey, you know what? Maybe this is true. Maybe I do need to work on this skill. She ended up doing it, and she ended up getting a lot out of it, and it turned out to be a family decision. So, again, don't feel obliged to include your family, but sometimes it can be helpful. Okay, so let's just say, for the purpose of this explanation, that you've chosen one, right? You've chosen one. I will say that number 2, I think, is the one that seems to be picked the most often. Learning how to meet, get to know people, and overcome shyness. It's amazing how many people suffer from some degree of shyness. This is a very common skill that people pick. Doesn't mean you have to pick it, but it is something that's very commonly picked. So, in the skill package, you've chosen your skill. You've done the first step. Now let's go to the next part. I'm just going to click on the next button, but it's also in the modules. Now, this is the important thing here. Once you've chosen your skill, and remember, you're going to be using this one skill through the whole skill package. You're not going to be jumping from skill to skill to skill. It's just you've picked one. Let's say you've picked the one overcoming shyness, right? Meeting, getting to know people. Skill number 2 on the list. Let's just say that's your choice. You're now going to do 8 different learning plan activities that are all about that one skill. The first learning activity is what we call writing about the skill. Now, again, we like to give you a lot of choices here. You've gotten 40-some choices of your skill. You've picked one. Now, when you look at the learning activities, you'll say, okay, in the writing activities segment, you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different possibilities. You only have to pick one of these to go for your writing activity. Most commonly picked, I think, is this first one. Sit down and write anything that comes into your head about the skill. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say, okay, my skill is overcoming shyness. I'm just going to free write, brainstorm on paper, anything that comes into my head about shyness and overcoming that. So I might write, for example, wow, I've noticed this since I was a teenager. I would go to a party, I wouldn't know what to say. I'd be okay with my friends, but not with certain people, blah, 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 blah. You just type it out. Make sure you come to that benchmark of at least 250 words, right? You've got to have that. That's just one page, basically, like a double-spaced page. You can go more than that. You can go way beyond if you want to. Some people write, 3, 4, 500 words, whatever, but just make sure you have at least 250. And then, hey, then you're done with that first activity. That first learning plan activity is done, the writing about the skill. Now, when you're in your modules, you'll see that there is an upload for this. So I'm going to the skill package section, and oops, went too far. Here it is. The skill package section is right here. And I go to, okay, upload link for the topic and first activity. So what I'm going to do is, we don't know your topic yet, right? So you're going to click on this, and you're going to, I'll go to student view so you can see what it will look like on your computer, is, okay, I'm going to start the assignment. I'm going to turn that particular one in that I've just typed up, that one page. So I'm going to list my skill, and you want to make sure you do it this way. Clearly list the skill. I've done number 2, overcoming shyness, and then you actually write out what is the actual activity that you are doing. What is the activity? So what I'm doing is the first activity, right? Writing anything that comes into your head about the skill. So make sure that's very clear at the top of your page so that I don't have to guess, like, well, which of those 5 activities is she doing there? What is it? Make sure it's very clear. I've got the skill, I've got the activity, then you do your 250 words underneath it, okay? And then all you got to do is click Start Assignment and upload your file, okay? That's how you do that first one, okay? Now, let's go back here, and you'll see that when we're ready for the second part, we've done the first one now, right? We'll go to the second one. So looking at the learning plan activities here, you'll see we've done the writing. Now we're going to go to the symbolizing the skill in an art form, okay? This is the one exception where it doesn't have to be exactly 250 words, because you might be writing a poem, for example, about the skill. So in this particular activity, you're going to do a mini art project, and you're not going to get graded on your artistic skills. It's really a matter of just figuring out a way to express this skill in an artistic way. You're going to either create a poem about the skill or a song about the skill, or make a visual collage using different images that you combine together. That's one that's very popular. Or you could make up a cartoon. Again, you're not taking a cartoon off the internet, right? You don't want to do that. You want to make your own cartoon. It doesn't have to be brilliant artwork, just you're creating your own thing. Or you could, this last one's a little different, relate the skill to some specific event in the news. It's a little bit different, but most people are going to pick a collage or write a poem. And again, you're going to do it the same way you did. Once you finish that symbolizing activity, right, you'll see that there is an upload link right there inside the skill package section. Here it is, upload link for second skill package activity, symbolizing the skill in art form, and you're going to turn it in there, okay? Now, there's 8 of these, as I mentioned, right? So just to look at these, you'll see that you're going to go through. You've done now the first 2. The third is practicing the skill in a variety of situations. And again, you get to pick. There's actually 3 choices here of how you want to practice the skill. most people will do this first one. Use the skill outside of class and write about the experience. So you actually try using the skill. If you're using the skill of number 2, overcoming shyness, you might say, oh, okay, I'm going to go to a social event that I normally might avoid. I'm just going to go there and I'm going to try talking to people and just see what happens, right? Just see what happens. So you try it, and then you go back home and you write up what happened, 250 words, and then turn it in, and you're done with the practicing skill. The next one is receiving feedback about the skill from friends and family. Okay, again, we're dealing with shyness, right? So you're going to say, okay, maybe you go up to your brother or sister and say, hey, you know me pretty well. You know, I'm kind of a shy person. What's your perception from knowing me? You know, what do you think about my performance of this skill of overcoming shyness? Like, what do you think? And then you write down what they say, right? And then analyze it. That's a good way to do this, right? And you find out, you know, how they see you in terms of overcoming shyness, right? Or you could pick one of these other possibilities, right? There's lots of choices here. In this case, you've got 4 different choices of how you could go about doing this activity. You only have to pick one again, right? Then you turn that in. Then you go to the number 5, observing the skill being practiced by others. This is an idea of, say, finding someone you know, for example, who's really good at talking to people, and someone you consider not to be shy. And you're like, hey, I'm going to observe this person, right? And then you're going to find out, you know, what's going on. Observe them. Or you might do the interviewing of the person. Like, hey, you're really not a shy person. I'm trying to overcome my shyness. Let me sit down and ask you some questions and find out how you do it. And then you summarize the interview, and then you've done activity number 5, right? So you can see how each of these activities is designed to kind of build up your skill level with this skill of overcoming shyness. And we're doing it from all these different angles. Now we get to the last few, teaching the skill to someone else. You may think, hey, how can I do that if I'm not good at it? But you'll find that it's actually pretty feasible to do. You could, for example, create some kind of learning experience, like, for example, like some kind of survey. Like, people will do things like, you know, like you see this in magazines, for example, like you make a survey and you give yourself, depending on the answer you give, you'll give yourself points or maybe deduct points to find out, like, hey, are you shy? Take the survey and find out. Or you might invent a game. I've had students actually create little, even mini board games, right, with dice and things that you throw, and it land on this point. You got to ask a question to somebody. It's all designed to sort of have fun with getting someone to learn how to overcome shyness. So you have to use your imagination here a bit, or to simply try teaching someone the skill. Like, a lot of people will do this with a family member, right? Like, I've had a lot of parents say, okay, I'm going to try teaching my child how to be less shy. And then they give them some pointers and maybe try some practice, and then they write up what happened, and there you go. You've got activity 6. Number 7, very straightforward, reading about the skill. So you're going to read an article or a magazine or a book or a blog or something about shyness. You'll find if you look online, there's millions of articles that have been written about it, and you're going to summarize what you read. And that is how you do that. There's other choices here, right? It doesn't have to be a book. You could think of a famous person who is good at the skill, and then read some sort of biography of that person and write about it. You'll see that, again, there's choices here as to how you want to do the reading about the skill activity. You just have to pick just one, okay? And then the last one, the 8th one here, is to actually write a 1-page evaluation. Now that you're kind of done with the whole skill package, a 1-page evaluation of what you learned, what you got out of doing the skill package, 1 page. And then that's the end of it, right? So that's the idea. The biggest mistake that people make is that they don't realize you only have to pick one skill from the list, right? Only one skill from that list. But then you have to do all 8 of these activities, and they all are centered around the one skill. Okay, hopefully you've got the idea of that. Now, when you finally finish all this, you'll see that, again, don't confuse this with the rest of the course. I mean, the skill package is done alongside the course, but the rest of the course is still here, right? Chapters 1 through 7. And the idea is to kind of do them in between. Like, most people will do a skill package activity about once a week, but they'll also be doing their readings and the assignments that are in the other chapters. And then when you get to the very end, the final of the course, you'll see that the final speech upload basically is to basically give a 2 to 3 minute talk about what you got out of the skill package and make a video about it here. and that is your final for the course. So hopefully now you have a pretty good understanding of how the skill package integrates into the course and how it's really the center of the course itself. Let me know if you have any questions or need any help with it. I know it's a big project, but I think you'll find it super enjoyable and you'll get a lot out of it, hopefully. Thanks a lot.